Florida. Land of eternal sunshine, mass migration, and record high prices. But beneath the palm trees, something is cracking. Insurance rates are exploding. Migration has slowed, and sellers are panicking. Cities that seemed untouchable are starting to buckle under the weight of overgrowth, exorbitant prices, and crushing risk. Today, here on Keynomics, we're counting down the 8 Florida cities where the next wave of the housing collapse is already forming. Cities where paradise is costing far too much. What you're about to find out today, traditional realtors won't tell you. Hold on tight, because by the end of this video, you'll see how the sunshine can turn to shadow. If you want to protect your wealth and understand the real market forces, subscribe to the channel and ring the bell. Information is your best defense. Welcome back to Keynomics. I analyze housing crises in the United States not to scare, but to prepare. Florida is the epicenter of a perfect storm. For years, the state benefited from rock-bottom interest rates and an endless flow of buyers, which sent prices soaring. In some markets, over 65% in just 2 years. But now the bill has come due. And it didn't come from the banks, it came from the insurance companies. Major insurers are fleeing the state, and those that remain are hiking premiums to unsustainable levels. In luxury enclaves like Jupiter, we're talking about annual policies jumping from an average of $8,000 to over $20,000. This is turning the Florida dream into a financial nightmare. When the cost of maintaining a property outweighs the benefit of owning it, the market doesn't just correct, it crashes. The result is already visible. Inventory in growth cities like Northport has skyrocketed over 80% year over year, and prices in once hot markets are already falling by double digits. Let's get right to it, starting our countdown. Number 8, the villages. America's most famous retirement paradise is learning that even the good life has its limits. For decades, this sprawling, golf cart-filled community symbolized a carefree life. Thousands of retirees arrived every year seeking year-round sun. Home values rose steadily. But in 2025, that formula has cracked. The Villages is facing what experts call a retirement market correction. Prices have stagnated, inventory has soared, and affordability, even for retirees, has collapsed. Property taxes are up 30% in 3 years. HOA fees are pushing past $600 a month, and insurance costs have doubled for many residents. For retirees living on fixed incomes, these increases are devastating. Homes that once sold in a week now sit for months. The next generation of retirees is opting for cheaper states like Georgia or Tennessee. And then there's the maintenance, aging infrastructure, and the cost of maintaining dozens of golf courses and pools are taking their toll. Developers are still expanding, but demand isn't keeping up. Entire newly built sections are sitting partially empty, waiting for buyers who may never come. The golden years of the Villages may be giving way to a long, gray correction. Number 7, Northport. The fastest growing city of the last decade is learning that expansion without balance leads to collapse. Once marketed as Florida's affordable frontier, Northport became the poster child for post-pandemic migration. Families and retirees flooded the area, drawn by cheap land and the promise of a quieter life near Sarasota's beaches. Between 2020 and 2022, developers couldn't build fast enough. But in 2025, the dream hit a wall. Inventory has surged by over 80%, and median home prices have fallen more than 12% year over year. What was a seller's paradise has become a buyer's waiting game. The cause isn't just oversupply, it's financial pressure. Insurance rates have tripled. HOA fees, which seemed manageable, now eat up hundreds per month. Local builders are cutting crews. Realtors report open houses, going hours without a single visitor. Homeowners who bought at the peak are underwater, unable to sell without taking a loss. Northport's problem is structural. Too many houses, too few qualified buyers, and excessive optimism built on temporary demand. Number 6, Punta Gorda. The charming coastal town nestled between Sarasota and Fort Myers is beginning to feel the pressure of Paradise's price tag. For years, Punta Gorda was the smart retiree's secret. Peaceful, picturesque, and affordable compared to its flashier neighbors. But in 2025, the cracks are widening. The city's pandemic-era boom was driven almost entirely by cash-rich retirees and second home buyers. When mortgage rates shot up and insurance markets imploded, the foundation gave way. Waterfront insurance that once cost $3,500 now exceeds $10,000 annually. That's if you can get coverage at all. New flood zone maps have redrawn the lines of risk. Condo owners are now facing special assessments following the state's new structural inspection laws, some exceeding $50,000 per unit. Developers who once couldn't build fast enough are now quietly offering aggressive discounts, $50,000, $100,000, sometimes more, just to keep inventory moving. Punta Gorda's calm might not be comfort, it might be the quiet before the storm. Number 5, Winter Haven. The inland heart of Polk County is proof that even distance from the coast can't protect you from Florida's real estate reckoning. Once known as the Chain of Lakes City, Winter Haven became one of Central Florida's hottest real estate stories. As prices exploded in Tampa and Orlando, thousands of buyers pushed inland, seeking cheaper homes and quieter neighborhoods. For a while it worked. New communities sprouted up around the lakes. Between 2019 and 2022, home prices surged over 60%, and investors rushed in to buy Airbnb rentals or flip houses. But in 2025, the market has gone cold. Inventory has doubled. Price cuts are everywhere. Sellers are slashing 10% to 15% off list prices just to get traffic. Insurance and tax bills have shattered the myth of affordable Florida. Inland homeowners who thought they were escaping the coastal crisis are now facing premium hikes of 50% or more. The infrastructure hasn't kept up. Congested roads, overcrowded schools. Winter Haven's story is a reminder that Florida's housing crisis isn't just coastal, it's statewide. The insurance bubble is popping demand. But as we always say here at Keynomics, the majority's panic is the minority's opportunity. Today's collapse is the smart investor's entry point. If you want me to keep showing you how to spot the market floor before everyone else, hit that like button now. It's your green light for me to prioritize opportunity analysis amid the crisis. And I want to know your opinion in the comments. What is breaking Florida faster, insurance or interest rates? Number 4, Naples. The crown jewel of Florida luxury isn't just losing its luster, it's tarnishing before our eyes. For decades, Naples symbolized carefree wealth and bulletproof real estate. The mantra was simple, spoken in quiet country clubs and on multi-million-dollar yachts. Naples real estate never goes down. It was considered safer than gold. In 2025, that illusion isn't just shattering, it's being pulverized. High-end property prices are in freefall, down an average of 15%, but in exclusive enclaves like Port Royale, some sellers are taking 25% haircuts just to get a deal done. Listings for multi-million-dollar mansions have exploded by over 60% compared to last year. Why? Because the carrying costs have become toxic. Homes that once sold in private, off-market bidding wars now languish for months, collecting dust while the bills pile up. The insurance costs have become unthinkable. We're not talking about a small increase. We're talking about annual premiums for waterfront homes exploding past $20,000, with reports of $40,000 and $50,000 bills for older properties. Now, add six-figure HOA fees for those luxury coastal condos, new FEMA flood zones that have redrawn the map of risk, and you have a situation where even the ultra-wealthy are feeling the pinch. The problem isn't just financial, it's psychological. Naples built its entire identity on invincibility. Now, wealthy owners are asking themselves a simple, devastating question. Why am I paying California prices for Florida risks? That psychological shift is everything. International investors from Europe and Canada, once the backbone of this high-end market, have retreated. They see the risk, the math no longer works. As a result, developers are quietly slashing prices, and the luxury rental market has completely softened, with rents falling 10–15%. Naples isn't collapsing overnight, it's silently deflating, one unsold mansion at a time. Number 3, St. Petersburg. The Gulf Coast gem, St. Pete, is facing its most serious correction in a decade. This was supposed to be the it city, the cooler, more cultured, more affordable alternative to Miami. Between 2020 and 2022, St. Pete's skyline was transformed by a forest of new luxury condo towers. Developers couldn't build them fast enough. In 2025, that demand has not just frozen, it has evaporated. Downtown condo vacancies are up 30%, and resale prices in older, once desirable buildings have plummeted. The catalyst? The ticking time bomb of Florida's new post-Surfside structural laws. This is the bill coming due for decades of deferred maintenance. Many condo associations are now being forced to conduct multi-million-dollar repairs, costing residents tens of thousands of dollars, $50,000, $80,000, even $100,000 in special assessments that are due now. Faced with these crippling bills, longtime owners and retirees are being forced to sell. It's a race to the exit, and they are flooding the market with units. The result is a painful cascade of price reductions. Units that sold for $900,000 at the 2022 peak are now struggling to get $750,000. And that's if they can find a cash buyer, as many banks are now refusing to finance units in buildings with pending assessments. On top of the assessments, insurance premiums have doubled in 3 years, and property taxes, still tied to those inflated pandemic-era assessments, are strangling retirees on fixed incomes. Local realtors have coined a new term for what's happening: the buyable, the Bay Area bubble. It is the toxic mix of speculation, overconfidence, new regulations, and climate risk colliding in real time. Number 2, Port St. Lucie. This is the poster child for the pandemic migration boom, and it is now facing the painful, inevitable hangover of overexpansion. This city exploded between 2020 and 2022. It was the affordable dream for those fleeing New York and New Jersey, and prices soared by nearly 80% as developers raced to meet what seemed like infinite demand. In 2025, that boom has turned to bloat. Home sales have completely collapsed. Available inventory has increased by a staggering 90% year over year. Let me repeat that, 90%. That isn't a correction, that's a market seizure. In some sprawling new developments, homes are now being sold for less than what it cost to build them in 2022. The builders are trapped. They are offering unheard of incentives to move product: $30,000 in closing credits, buying down mortgage rates to 4.5%, and even throwing in free solar panels. Anything to keep the projects alive and avoid defaulting on their own construction loans. But the dream has soured. The city's infrastructure has buckled under the weight of the growth. The quality of life they moved for is gone, replaced by crippling traffic congestion and overcrowded schools. Meanwhile, the financial hammer has dropped. Insurance rates have skyrocketed. Policies that cost a manageable $2,800 a year in 2020 now routinely exceed $6,500. Many desperate homeowners who bought at the peak and now have negative equity are opting to go uninsured, a dangerous gamble we call going naked in the industry. It's one hurricane away from total financial ruin. Investors are bailing out too. The Airbnb market is completely supersaturated, forcing them to pivot to long-term rentals, which in turn is flooding that market and crashing rental prices. Port St. Lucie is a classic textbook example of what happens when a boomtown optimism meets cold, hard economic reality. And at number 1, Fort Lauderdale. The shining symbol of South Florida luxury is facing a reckoning that could reshape the entire region. The playground for yachts and billionaires is now feeling the squeeze from insurance chaos, sea level rise, and financial fatigue. Condo values are down 12% on average, but that hides the real story. Some coastal units have lost 25% or more of their value due to new flood risk data and mandatory repair fees. Insurance costs are out of control. Premiums reaching $25,000 a year are now common, forcing owners to sell at deep discounts. Developers are freezing projects mid-construction. The investor frenzy that fueled the city's skyline has evaporated. Even the luxury waterfront mansion market is cracking, with properties trading hands below their assessed value. But perhaps the biggest shadow over Fort Lauderdale is environmental: chronic flooding. So-called sunny day floods are becoming a weekly event in low-lying neighborhoods. Streets that once showcased luxury cars now fill with saltwater at high tide. The city that symbolized coastal success is now living on borrowed time and rising water. Fort Lauderdale's fall isn't sudden. It's constant, visible, and relentless. From the Villages to Naples, from Port St. Lucie to Fort Lauderdale, what we've seen today isn't a series of isolated problems, it's a systemic pattern. From the inland retirement haven, the Villages, to the coastal billionaires' playground, Naples. From the fastest growing boomtown, Port St. Lucie, to the coastal financial hub, Fort Lauderdale. No one is immune. Florida's markets are feeling exactly what comes after an unsustainable boom. First, the abrupt correction in prices, then the severe contraction in demand, and finally, the beginning of the collapse in the most over-leveraged and risk-exposed markets. What we witnessed in recent years was a real estate gold rush, built on three pillars that are now crumbling simultaneously. The first was migration, a frenzy of buyers that seemed endless. The second was investor speculation, fueled by easy money and 0% interest rates. And the third, the weakest pillar of all, was artificially cheap insurance, which hid the true cost of living in paradise. Now, these same forces are reversing at full speed. The migration inflow is drying up as living costs explode. Speculators are rushing for the exits, trying to cash in profits before they vanish. And the true cost of risk, in the form of five-figure insurance premiums, has finally arrived. The reckoning is here. The question isn't if these markets will fall, they are already falling. The question is, how far? The next 18 months will be brutal for those who bought at the top. But for those who, like us here at Keynomics, understand the cycles, the biggest buying opportunity of the decade may be born from the panic of others. Here at Keynomics, my job is to analyze the data, not the hype. If you want to stay ahead of the curve and learn how to turn this crisis into your next great investment opportunity, hit subscribe and turn on notifications. Thank you for watching. Stay informed and stay prepared.